Hey folks, and welcome to my list of 10 puzzle games with platinum trophies that you should try. This list originally aimed to be about a huge variety of games of all kinds of genres, picking anything from the niche to the underrated, concepts you might never have considered or known to exist, and ideas that hopefully might tickle your fancy, but after a while I realised I'd basically just picked a list of cool puzzle games, so it was a quick rebrand. Moreover, these suggestions weren't just for trophy hunters either, but for anyone who's looking to pick up something new and play a game they've never heard of. These are a collection of puzzle games of varying length, budget, developer capability, and difficulty that I've tried or my friends have tried, which we believe deserve a damn sight more attention than they get. Some of these you might have heard of, some of them you might even have played, but here's a challenge for you. If you have the platinum trophy for every single one of the games on this list, feel free to give my video a dislike. Go on, coward, treat yourself. My selection had a simple criteria. It needs to be a game that didn't receive loads of mainstream attention, and it must have a trophy list that is still obtainable. I mean, we do need to stay on brand here. Before we begin, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share a comment about some underrated puzzle games you think are worth a play, particularly if they're fun and easy to platinum. And if you're interested in watching me play games live, check out my Twitch over at twitch.tv/merkkk, where I stream myself trophy hunting every other day, 7 PM UK time. Now, without further ado, thanks for watching, and let's get on to the video. El Hijo, or Wild West Tale, is a beautiful, stylized, stealthy puzzle game in which you need to guide a little boy through a cruel world to find his mum. The art style in this game is gorgeous, juxtaposed bright orange with deep blue, which the game does great work with to build an almost acrylic world around you as you play. Cutscenes are composed of brilliantly painted 2D art, characters are expressive, and it really enhances the use of a child protagonist. A lot of games tend to use child protagonists to pull random emotional strings without really doing or saying anything, but El Hijo tells a blessed story about a sweet little boy who is just trying to find his mum. The game is top-down isometric and asks that you use whatever is at your disposal to sneak past hordes of armed soldiers. A single playthrough can comfortably run you 7 hours. The levels are surprisingly big, and they're not just rooms. There's a real sense of lives being lived as you walk around and purposely sabotage them for the sake of your mum, who has been betrayed by her family. You can look ahead in each level and plot your route, which is a really useful detail I'd have loved to see in games like Dishonored, where you crawl through your first playthrough on your belly, using save scum trial and error just to make it to your objective. In Dishonored, you walk ahead a few meters, you learn a lesson, you reload, you walk those meters differently, you save, and then you repeat. The game doesn't give you a chance, so much as it drops you in an alligator-infested lake and tells you to start swimming. You learn through failure, which can be exhausting, especially with loading screens longer than a rendition of Happy Birthday. In El Hijo, you're more or less given the map ahead of you in a single shot, and you're free to sit and ponder your strategy as much as you need. There's shadows to lurk in, pots to hide in, and crates to duck behind whenever patrols walk by, if you're going for a cleaner kind of stealth. If you want to be a hilarious evil genius, you can make use of your trusty slingshot or random wind-up toys to have people walking in circles looking for you. What's more is that the platinum for this game is fairly straightforward. It's about 15 hours, asks you to complete the game, inspire other children in this little world, walk a set amount of steps, and complete each level under certain specific conditions, such as not using your slingshot or without being seen. As the levels crawl on and bandits start to show up armed and ready, you need to use every bit of your skill set to make it to the end. Song of Horror is a game I've spoken about at length. It's a game I very much struggle to play, never mind finish. It's a 19-hour game split into 5 episodes, seen through the eyes of between 1 and several characters, and I say between 1 and several because the game has, amongst many other interesting mechanics, permadeath. If you play poorly, you will be well acquainted with the roster. If you play well, they will be distant strangers. Song of Horror features a unique brand of Lovecraftian horror. You are pursued by The Presence, a being whose true physicality and motivations are unknown to you. It manifests as a cluster of screaming, grabbing figures with big, twisted, haunting faces, and lurks on the other side of doorways waiting for you. You have to listen closely at doors before you go through them, or you'll be grabbed and sucked into the abyss in an animation so fast and loud that it makes me jump in my seat even when I expect it. Later in the game, you need to mediate your breathing in time with button prompts, button mash to escape grabbing hands from portals below, and use a mirror to direct light at shadowy creatures that try and kill you. Song of Horror is a fairly low-key game, so it's likely not one that you've tried before, never mind heard of, but it makes this list because it is such a unique game. Episodic, permadeath, Lovecraftian horror. Song of Horror even has a unique platinum trophy. The developers either slipped a naughty one past Sony or whatever, but the platinum trophy isn't for getting all of the other trophies, it's for finishing the game on the hardest difficulty while collecting all the notes. So if you really want, you can just skip everything else. That's the only time I've ever seen a platinum trophy with actual requirements outside of Teslagrad, which we'll talk about later. Sure, it's not a platinum trophy I have, since I had to play this game on a Smurf in case I was too scared to finish it, it, and I was too scared to finish it, but it's made this list because I think it's a worthwhile challenge and honestly one of the best horror games I've ever played. It's rare to say I didn't finish it and that actually be a good review, but I think in terms of a horror game, that actually is quite a good thing to say about it. Song of Horror is crammed full of loud noises and jumpy moments, but also lots of notes to read and lots of story to consume about this mysterious music box and the song it plays. The Song of Horror, obviously, not Green Day. Teslagrad is a 2013 game developed and published by Rain Games, focusing on a world called Electropia, where magnetism and technology combine with magic, making magnetic magic. Stop me if I'm going too fast here. It's a beautiful side-scrolling puzzle game with a great soundtrack, some light combat, and a final boss that absolutely turned my arsehole inside out with despair. Teslagrad has some of the most sadistic puzzles I've ever encountered in gaming history, asking you to make the most of absolutely every in-game mechanic, usually in combination to master them. And it's got gravity puzzles. Joy. What's more is that you unlock abilities as you go, so often you'll need to come back to puzzles later to figure them out fresh. This occasionally means you'll be stood in a section for a while wondering what to do before realizing you need to come back later. For this platinum trophy, you essentially need to finish the game and collect every scroll. In fact, this game is similar to Song of Horror where the plat is also a random objective. In this case, the platinum is awarded for collecting 36 scrolls. Weird that some indie devs do this, but hey, it's 2 for 1. Scrolls are found hidden away or tucked at the end of crazy hard puzzles, and although 36 doesn't sound like loads, it will take a lot of time and a lot of effort to grab every one of them. Roughly 6 or 7 hours if you're doing it in a single session. There's also a bunch of super abstractly named things like Oleg's Redemption, and these are also just found around, but fundamentally nothing is missable and you can explore however you prefer once the story is over. It was a weird experience. This game actually didn't take me super long, I think about 6 hours in all, but it was such a challenge to figure out every individual puzzle. I felt absolutely exhausted by the time I finished. In a good way though, I'm glad I played it. It was really cool. We were lucky enough to be joined by a member of the development team as we played, a fellow who worked on the music, who told us all about what we were playing, which dev made which bit, and which one of them added the most sadistic details. Teslagrad is one of those challenges that takes momentous effort to overcome, and will be a game you'll remember for a long time. And maybe 2 years down the line you'll write a video recommending it as a fun and challenging puzzle-based plat, but who knows. We Were Here is a super charming and super fun co-op experience, succeeded by We Were Here 2 and We Were Here Together, that I heartily recommend to anybody looking to play a 2-player puzzle game with a friend. This one is definitely the easiest of the 3 as well, so if you finish it and decide that you like it and you can still actually both stand to speak to one another, you can go ahead and buy the rest of the trilogy and take bets on which point you reckon your friendship will completely break down. It's a good gift to give too when you think about it, or it would be if PSN allowed you to gift individual games to others. Instead you have to give your friend a gift card and tell them to buy it, which does sacrifice the pleasant surprise, but with the benefit of allowing you to test your friend's loyalty and see whether they actually buy the game you ask them to. So really, it's a service. You're welcome. You're 2 adorably coat-clad explorers who stumble upon a castle in a snowstorm and, upon tripping and falling in, realize that they now need to trip and fall out pronto because something weird is afoot and this place is not at all as it seems. Your way is littered with co-op puzzles, mostly revolving around verbal communication, explaining what you see and guiding your co-op partner through obstacles, symbols, items, colours, patterns. It's clever stuff and you have to work hard to get through it and communicate well, but it's not so hard that you're a complete loss on what to do. Oh no, that comes later in We Were Here Together. That one is really wild. The game is split into chapters, and for each chapter both players take on a separate role, and both players receive a different trophy for each chapter, meaning you need to play it through each, on each side, at least once for the trophies. Moreover, there are trophies for perfectly completing the trickier chapters without a single error, which is surprisingly hard. There's also a trophy for getting through the whole thing without dying, which is actually surprisingly hard in a few segments. Now, I know it sounds a lot, but honestly it's easier than it seems. It took me 3 hours and 5 minutes to get this platinum on a blind run, even with several playthroughs required. A perfect run can be done in no time at all, so grab a friend and enjoy it. I Am Dead is a borderline meme game that I felt probably started as a mistake and ended up as a happy accident. In I Am Dead, you are, well, I mean you're dead. You're a ghost, a recently deceased museum curator who reunites with his dog Sparky in the afterlife and learns of a devastating impending natural disaster. You need to literally dive into your friends' memories, finding places and bits of pieces of their lives scattered around the island after they too died, by picking up objects from their respective scenes and clipping into them to see what's inside, finding patterns and secret hidden items. When you collect them all, you move on to the next and the next and the next until you've worked through every one in your pager. It's a whole game about clipping into things, a puzzle in the loosest sense of the word, just a kind of visual game where you sit with your feet up in a comfy blankie, listen to soft, gentle music, and learn heartwarming stories about the island's inhabitants. It's not hard, more like playing Spot the Difference or Where's Wally, except in 3D, and you can glitch through everything in the scene so much longer and occasionally more frustrating. But I mean, you're just looking at things, there's no need to get upset. There's this big long storyline about a volcano and basically needing to elect the next fire spirit to watch over the volcano and keep it from going off, and no one really wants to do it because there are no set hours, pay, nor benefits. I find that understandable because the afterlife is a long time, and I personally wouldn't want to sign the loosest fucking contract on the planet either. It's not super long platinum, off the top of my memory it's about 15 hours, and there's no way I can be asked to check, so you have to look at it yourself if you're particularly fussed about knowing, or just take my word for it. It's roughly 63% too, putting it into a fairly common category, but this, like Donut County, is one of those games that's made with a ton of love and then just so happens to have a very easy platinum trophy, so I'd still recommend it. The headline is, Yoku's Island Express is very cute. It's Team 17 again, honestly the most shaggable dev studio on the planet, love you all, and I wasn't joking when I said I was going for a variety of genres, I meant it, because this is an adventure pinball game. This team is known for making brilliant, varied games with beautiful art, and Yoku's Island Express is no different. It's stylized, gorgeous, different, and most importantly, fun. Did you forget that that was a component of games? Because I did. Yoku, your character, is a suspiciously round character and bouncy enough to distract teenage boys on the bus. You're a dung beetle tasked with delivering post on an island. I mean, title-wise, it's all very self-explanatory. The game is all about figuring out your way around the 2D island, unlocking secrets, and using your abilities to platform to cooler and cooler areas. There are adorable characters to chat to everywhere, collectibles, minigames, and all sorts of dung beetle fuckery to get yourself busy with. All of it is needed for the platinum trophy too. The game basically requires 100% completion, but it's a small game, so it's not a stupid amount of work. There's a story that, as far as I can remember, gets unusually Lovecraftian, but hugely this game is fun just because it's a fun game. The gameplay loop is tight, clean and easy, like your mum, haha, and the puzzles are challenging and rewarding. There's a good balance between skill and thought required, usually in off-the-cuff moments when you're pinballing through a tight series of tunnels and need to know exactly where and how you're going to perform a rad stunt to get a hidden collectible. The game will run you roughly 10 hours, but I think it took me a bit extra because I'm an enormous floundering fool who struggles with basic tasks. The puzzles aren't super tough, but they are ones that require you moving all over the place, and I struggle to keep the bigger picture in mind when I'm doing stuff like that. The hours will fly by and you will miss it when you are done, I can assure you. Jazzpunk is a game with such an easy platinum trophy that it teeters on being trophy trash, but I promise it's a fantastic game and it's a lot of fun despite that initial impression. Developed by Necrophone Games, a company that doesn't even have a Wikipedia article I can check, so I can only assume that this was the only game they ever produced, Jazzpunk was released back in 2014 on PC, but man, that PlayStation port must have taken some wrangling since it didn't come out until 2016, 2 years later. I'll be honest, I know that different devs have different limitations, but I was surprised to hear it was so recent. And before you go, Mert, 2016 was 6 years ago. Yes, worry not, I know, but still. I'm still surprised that it's 6 years old. It reminds me of PlayStation 1 era graphics, which was a lovely waft of nostalgia, fresh from the booty of 2D art in a 3D world. In Jazzpunk, you're some bloke called Polybank, an agent working for a top-secret espionage agency on the tail of another some bloke, and this pulse-pounding journey takes you through a cool, stylized world, meeting tons of characters that all look like bathroom door signs, solving puzzles, playing fun minigames, and seeing some of this game's rich and hilarious dialogue. I think it's just one of those games where the devs got carried away and made it a walking homage to every piece of media they've ever enjoyed, which can sometimes be exhausting, but the game is short enough that it works very well and basically functions as a whistle-stop tour of references you can point at and acknowledge, or just walk past because you didn't even know it was a reference in the first place. I won't spoil anything since this is a recommendation, but this game is very funny. It has a very dry, sarcastic humour, it's fairly off the wall, and I didn't expect it, to be honest. We played this during Platmas, our yearly Christmas ritual, and on that year we were trying to get as many plats in 1 month as we could. The rule being that they couldn't be less than half an hour long and still had to be proper games, rather than essentially autopop plats. We played a lot of games that month. The Order 1886, My Name is Mayo, Undertale, The Wolf Among Us, Infamous First Light, Cat Lateral Damage, but none of them were as memorable, for me anyway, as Jazzpunk, which is why it sits on this list. The trophies are really off the wall and basically ask you to be a nuisance, and most of them are missable, so without a guide you'll just be wandering the streets having weird conversations with strange NPCs. Since we were doing Platmas and we had a tight time limit, I used a guide, but this game is funny and interesting enough to be worthwhile played without. Number 8 on our list is Outer Wilds, a game very unfortunately similarly named to the far less impressive Outer Worlds, released in the same year to middling reviews. Whenever you mention Outer Wilds, people say, oh, like the Fallout New Vegas game, right? And you say, no. And whenever you mention Outer Worlds, people say, oh, the good one? And you say, no. So, unfortunate. Outer Wilds is a Groundhog Day style game. You're stuck in a 22-minute loop. At the end of those 22 minutes, the star in your solar system goes supernova and resets everything. To put an end to this horrible cycle of life and death, you need to link the flame. Just kidding, obviously. You need to use your 22 minutes very carefully to explore the universe, discovering the secrets of a long-extinct alien race who they themselves once visited this solar system. They're the key to why the time loop is happening, dickheads, but they're also the key to fixing it and have left useful technology to help you. For example, using their technology, you can retain memories between loops, meaning you don't need to collect new information every time and you can actually get some work done. It also has light survival elements like fuel, health, oxygen, meaning you need to keep an eye on your resources and plan trips with those in mind. Initially, there'll be issues of real importance you'll be constantly focused on, but as you get more comfortable with your limits, they will barely register on your radar. Outer Wilds is all about using your time wisely and accumulating information, building an understanding of the world you're operating in, and routing yourself so that you can zip through it at the speed of light. It's the kind of game you can finish in one go if you know how to do it, but the journey is all about learning, building it from the ground up, and mastering it. I suppose it's one of those games that you can only really play once, but still, it's one worth playing. Day of the Tentacle is a game I feel most people have at least heard of, resurrected on the PlayStation in 2016, 23 years after its 1993 release. Yes, that's right, you could have had a baby and watched them grow to an adult since the original game's release. They'd have started and finished school, learned to drive presumably, and then soared past the minimum drinking age just in time for this game to push them into alcoholism. Day of the Tentacle is a LucasArts game, and if that's not enough to tip you into the throes of manic depression, then perhaps it's time to expand your gaming palette. In Day of the Tentacle, the present-day Earth is under siege by big alien tentacles. And while this sounds like the beginning of a bad hentai, it is not as sexy nor as exciting. You must pilot 3 characters, Bernard, Hoagie, and Laverne, in the past, present, and future of Tentacle Apocalypse, unraveling the puzzle pieces needed to stop the invasion from ever happening in the first place. Day of the Tentacle has these classic dumbass LucasArts logic puzzles where you need to embrace abstract thinking to the point of ridiculousness to find solutions. You find a leaflet decreeing that every American should own a vacuum in their basement, and you need to take this back in time and put it in the Constitution's suggestion box so that a vacuum will spawn in the basement of the house in the future. Like, that did sound actually like it makes a lot of sense, but I promise in the moment you'll be thinking for a long time over the smallest pieces of any puzzle. As far as the platinum goes, it's only a few hours with a guide, but it can take a long time to figure out without. Some of the trophies ask you to just do standard things that you do as part of the game, some of them ask you to do things in strange workaround methods with extra steps, but some of the trophies are super missable, asking you to finish the game without turning off the radio, play the whole game without skipping a cutscene or the end credits, which means an entire fresh playthrough if you ever miss these again. There are only 5 truly missable trophies in this game, but they're heavy trophies to miss and basically need a fresh restart. This is a hard game to learn and a weird one to remember, but a fun plat to have. Roki was a game that was recommended to me over on my Discord server, thank you Yami. Check out the link in the description box if you're interested in joining, and it's a game that initially appealed to me because it looks like it has Gengars in it, and although my favourite Pokemon is Weezing, I don't think there's a more universally adored Pokemon than Gengar, so I was keen on it. Released in 2020 for the Switch and PC, and then in 2021 for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, Roki follows a young woman called Tove looking to save her younger brother Lars from the titular Roki, i.e. the Gengar that drew me to the title in the first place. All in all, the Platinums are 2 for difficulty, that's out of 10 of course, not 5, but it won't take you more than 12 hours, and it's a nice 36%, which tends to be rare for a game so accommodating. This Platinum just really asks for thoroughness, finishing the game, collecting everything, speaking to everyone, examining lots of items in your backpack. It's not particularly taxing, but I guess it's a fat pain in the arse if you miss something. The art style and level design of Roki is beautiful. I feel like most games tend to cram snowy places in as afterthoughts. They're always endgame or DLC, usually just base game assets with a big blob of snow to cover them up. See any Dark Souls DLC, Remnant from the Ashes, and Skyrim? It's nice to have a game that's actually built around snowy level design is the point I'm making, without being one of those trophy trash walking simulator games that just has you walk 15 feet while some dour teen whinges in your ear about their childhood. This game's a rare example of a point and click that's actually been developed after the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's a dying breed and Roki clings hard to the sheer cliff face of technological developments. As games become more and more advanced, simpler templates like point and click definitely fall by the wayside, but Roki shows us that there's still a place for them. And those are my top picks for the 10 most interesting puzzle games with platinum trophies that you've probably never played. If you liked the video, please comment and suggest some of your own plats I might never have heard of myself. And don't forget, subscribe to me here on YouTube if you'd like more gaming content. I make rankings, reviews, and general discussion videos as often as I can, so if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, please hit the subscribe button for more. If you'd like to see me grab these trophies in real time, head over to twitch.tv/mokk where I stream every other day at 7 PM UK time. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.